Okay, well, happy Palm Sunday, everyone. Who knew it was Palm Sunday, though? Yeah, who's like, what? Yeah, that's fair. And Passover was yesterday. Easter's next week. This is big, okay? This is a big week for church. So we are going to talk about Palm Sunday, obviously, this morning. And one of my favorite things about being at New Abbey is that almost every year I've preached on Palm Sunday, and I really love Palm Sunday, and it's very special to me. And I just think it has a lot to teach us, and there's always something new to find. And so this time I'm going to read out of Zechariah, okay? We're going the Old Testament prophet talking about Palm Sunday, because you got to mix it up. But it's in the Gospels. If you want to read it again, it's in like Matthew, Luke, it's everywhere. Who just found out that there's a book called Zechariah? Okay. I'm really just testing my wife, honestly, this morning, she was like, Zechariah? That's in there? It's in there. Who had to memorize, learn the rap of all of the books of the Bible in order? Yeah. And you probably still remember. Isn't that weird? It's in your brain. It'll never leave. Okay. So it goes like this. It says, rejoice greatly, daughter Zion. Oh, Zion! Exclamation point. Shout, daughter of Jerusalem! See, your king comes to you, righteous and victorious, lowly and riding on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey. Okay, so just a little, if you didn't know what a donkey is, they give you a little extra point there. But this really hits the crux of what I want to talk about this morning as it relates to Palm Sunday. And this passage really presents it really well, is that Palm Sunday gives us just a really clear look into something that seems opposite, right? You have someone coming in that is both righteous and victorious and lowly riding a donkey. And it points to this thing that happens a lot of times in Scripture where we are presented with seemingly opposites for how we understand the presence of Jesus, for how we understand God, right? We have victorious and righteous and lowly riding on a donkey. We have the Alpha and Omega, beginning and the end. We have Lion and the Lamb. We have heaven and earth. We have all of these things, right? We're presented with these over and over and over. And I've been thinking a lot and reading a lot about these lately, and I actually discovered that there's a word for this, right? Anyone ever heard merisms? Merisms, the word? M-E-R-isms is how you spell it, in case you're wondering. And it's a rhetorical device used in Scripture and other places where you are presented with seemingly opposite or contradictory words, and they are meant to imply the totality of something, right? So this doesn't happen in the Bible. So if I was I lost my keys and I couldn't find them, I looked high and low. I looked high and low for them, nowhere to be found. It doesn't mean that I looked in the highest possible place and then in the lowest possible place. It means I looked everywhere, right? It means I covered the span of high and low and everything in between. When people stand at their weddings and they make vows to each other and they say for rich or for poor, they don't just mean if you're rich or if you're poor, right? I don't know. Maybe some people do. I don't know. But I think they mean everything in between. And so when we have language like this in Scripture, I think it's repetitive and it's constantly cluing in and hammering down this idea that the presence of God just doesn't exist in victorious and righteous or lowly on a donkey, or in the beginning or in the end, or in the lion and in the lamb. It's a merism that's trying to remind us that it's actually all in everything. In everything, both the highest highs and the lowest lows, exist the presence of Jesus. And it's just such a special reminder to me that there are moments, I think, for a lot of us where we feel righteous and victorious. There are moments where we feel like we're riding on a donkey. And then a lot of life happens somewhere in the middle, where it's ordinary, it's mundane, it's kind of routine, and that maybe the presence of Jesus exists in that space as well. There's last night I got to go to a wedding, and woo, we hate love in here. I got to go to a wedding, and it was just, I can't even talk about it. It's two people who became best friends in middle school, and then tried dating in high school, and it didn't work out, and so they went their separate ways in life. And then 20 years later, somehow found each other again, and instantly there was like this soul like remembering of what it was, and they were like, that didn't work when we were teenagers, but now the remembrance of who we were came together so beautifully, and they're just so in love, and we all got to be there, and it's like friends from high school, and people have knew, like my wife officiated the wedding because this is her best friend from like high school, and she knew them back then, and she knows them now. Incredible, okay? What are the odds? A miracle. I literally have chills thinking about it. I could cry again because that was just a moment where I was like, this is the universe coming together, the billions of people, all these things. It just felt so special, and I like knew this was like a holy thing, right? And we have those moments where you're like, this is undeniable. Like I don't even have to lock in to try to see this. This is just beautiful and holy and undeniable. And then there's other moments, and I think about often when I was growing up, my mom used to keep a miracle journal where she would write down any miracle that happened. And then on New Year's Day, she would read out loud all of the miracles from that year. And a lot of times, the miracles, they weren't really miracling. As I would, she'd be like, April 5th, 2010, my beautiful daughter took off on a flight to Austin and landed safely. And you're like, oh, is that a miracle? You know, and then you start to think about it and you're like, no, but is that a miracle though? Like, that kind of is a miracle, right? And it was this reminder for my mom to look at every moment in a year as like, it's kind of a miracle. You take off on a plane and well, even more so now. No, but this was the before times. Right? But the small it's like I forget who said it, but there's a quote. There's two ways to see the world. One as if everything's a miracle, and one as if nothing is. And so we have these moments, I know, that feel like, oh my gosh, like this is a thin space and everything, and the hair on my arms is standing up, and this is so miraculous and it's so beautiful, and those moments are just worth noticing always, always, always. And then I think there's a lot of other moments, though, that can be an invitation to a reminder that God is actually in every space in between the lowest of the lows. Everyone knows what it feels like to be crying in your car, listening to like Adele and feeling like everything will never be good again. And everyone knows what it feels like to be like, I live in a Claritin commercial and everything's open and beautiful and clear. And those moments are so important for us. But I just think that Holy Week and Palm Sunday is actually an invitation to the middle. To a reminder that God and the presence of God exists in all the things. And maybe it's not just about this Holy Week, but this week is a reminder that it's all holy. And that it's always been holy. And that there's just these beautiful moments where you wake up and you make coffee and you sip coffee and you're like, is this a miracle? Right? Is the presence of God here? And if it is, what does that mean for how I exist in the world and how I span those two times? Something the common narrative around Palm Sunday is that Jesus shows up in the most unlikely way, right? Because you're like, everyone's like cheering him on. They're like, let's go. And then he shows up like on a donkey, right? It's like if I was going to be like, if the best player in the Masters showed up but I'm like, I don't know who the best player is. I don't know how they're supposed to show up, and I don't know what would be the opposite. So, if Tiger Woods came in sweatpants on a dirt bike, I don't know. Should have stopped while I was ahead, and I was never ahead on that one. But the reality is that, like, okay, you have this narrative of how you think something's going to come in, and then it comes in the opposite way. And I think as we think about merisms and we think about the ordinary miracles and as we think about being present in our life, it's not just so that we could be like, oh my gosh, everything's a miracle. It's also this invitation to this bigger reality that if we're looking, I think we'll find things showing up in ways we didn't think that they would show up, and we wouldn't have seen them if we weren't looking. And I think this everything about the narrative and life of Jesus is an invitation for us to be present. And I think this Palm Sunday and this Holy Week is another invitation for us to be present in the realities of wondering where the presence of God is in our life. And then to follow that and to find it and seek it out and to create more of it. There's a reason that every single Sunday we do good news. Because we are inundated with the opposite of this reality, the opposite of what I'm saying. We are inundated with the reality that nothing is a miracle, everything's bad, we're actually pretty screwed, and nothing's going to turn around, and we've gone too far to turn back, and everything's overwhelming, and everyone's evil. Is this like resonating with anyone? Yeah, this is just me 5 minutes this morning on social media. And we get an invitation into the opposite, and to say, well, what are the areas? It's kind of a miracle that you book this Airbnb. You're like, I'm going to Coachella. It doesn't matter what I'm going to do. I'm going to get my friends together. What, Green Day? Oh, my gosh. Okay, I'm in it. A miracle, right? This baby is a miracle. Your brother is a miracle. Golf being over? Miracle, honey. We did it. We beat it. So close to beating that thing. And if we just allow that to transform the way we interact with the world, then I think we have our best shot at bringing about some of the reality that Jesus talked about. At the end of the day, everyone is in this room this morning instead of being at brunch because you believe in the world that Jesus talked about building. You believe in this place where we can lead with love. You believed in a world where we don't judge. You believed in a world where we drop stones instead of throw them. You believe that the first shall be last and the last shall be first. And you believe in these ideas. And if we want any chance in being able to participate in that way, I think it starts with the recognition that everything is holy. That everything can be this holy moment. That high, low, everything in between. That righteous and victorious and being on a donkey, everything in between is beautiful and holy. And if we can engage in the everyday, singular, mundane, holy moments, then I think we'll really start to turn the tide on flipping change in a big way. The more life I live, the more I think, I used to always have these like grand ideas and be like, here's what I would do to change the world if I was Oprah, right? Who's had that particular fantasy? Anyone? Me? Yeah, I think Johnny's hand went up highest, fastest. Or if I was this person, or if I had this resource, or if I was in this stage in life, or here's how I would change the world. Because in my mind, it always had to be bigger than my life is right now. Right? So if I was something bigger than my life is, if I took up more space, if I had more resources, if I had more ideas, if I had more relationships, I had more things, then I could create some serious change in the world. And now the more life I live, I'm realizing, oh my gosh, okay, I'm not Oprah, but I'm me. And if I can change, and it's actually happened so small, and if I can just set the tone in my life that everything is holy, if I can understand that it's not just about swinging for the high highs or living and working through the low lows, but it's about living in that everyday in-between space and seeing that as holy, seeing the people that are there as holy, seeing everything as a miracle, seeing the people that are in the middle with me as a miracle, singing the little wins as a miracle, singing like taking off on a plane and landing as a miracle, then I start to turn the tide on my community, and my community can start to turn the tide on other things. Like New Abbey, this is some of our most important work, is just being in community with each other. Every single week, I know Corey talked about money, and it was so clear and eloquent, so I probably don't need to, I don't need to double down on it, but you guys, it's wild to me. Yeah, he's asleep in the green room. But it's really wild to me, to be honest. Like we say this every week, and I feel like we don't share these stories enough, but we'll have someone be like, like I got this job and I'm giving this, and then we'll have someone email and be like, I'm really in the middle of it and I need to go to therapy and I don't have enough to cover it. And then we get to say, that's a miracle. That's wild. I know we say this all the time. Money is just like a weird and divisive thing, but every single person at New Abbey, these aren't our full-time jobs. We do other things. And we get to experience what it looks like for people to do that for each other. That's a miracle. For someone to say, I have an extra $300, and then someone else to say, I need $300, that's crazy. And we're so used to these like everyday, mundane little things, but these are beautiful. And I think this invitation as we go into the week, as we go into Holy Week and the week of Easter, is just a reminder that it's all holy and it's all miraculous. And I'm even going to encourage everyone, like, what if, okay, this is coming up real time. Okay. I'm like, what if we just kept track this week? You know what I mean? Like, make a little miracle journal and keep track of things that feel like, that's kind of wild. This wedding was pretty insane. Oh my gosh, I got to take off on a plane and land safely. Oh my gosh, I got to like drink good coffee that I made at home. That doesn't happen. That's a that's a miracle I'm still waiting on. That's why I go buy coffee every day. Help me. But seeing friends, like having community, having someone to call, starting a family, having like whatever it is, everything that's good news. I'm like, these are all miracles. Lady Gaga is a miracle, obviously. Yeah. Obviously. Yeah. Not that was up for debate. Yeah, no, if you guys know how bad I am at ending. I just to summarize. In conclusion, I've just been really touched lately with this idea of the in-between space. Because it's where we spend most of our life. It's not in the highest and the lowest. It's not in the alpha or the omega. It's not in the thing. It's all in the middle space. And we have time after time after time in Scripture that is like pointing us to the reality that it's not about the end points or the furthest binaries, right? It's about the in-between space. And we do not have time to unpack it today, but I think, take the idea of merisms and we talk about male and female. I think we can transfer some things that will really help us pick up the pace on some non-binary inclusion, honey. And with that, I just think it's a beautiful invitation. It's not an invitation to the middle space because that's where our lives already are. It's an invitation to see them. What would that mean if our enemy was also holy? And how do we live, and how do we work, and how do we act? And with that, you're going to grab the same 3 or 4 people and answer this question. What ordinary place do you want to find the presence of God this week? Enjoy.